Okay, I welcome you all back to my channel. Today on this video, you're going to see, or we're going to learn how to draft out a basic suit pattern. So this is the measurement we are going to work on. This is shoulder 16, length 29, chest 36, the waist 31, hip 36, sleeve 23.5, the bicep, which is the muzzle or the arm, 13.5. Then this W2A represents wrist to elbow. So now this is how a basic suit pattern commences. First of all, you have to sketch out your vertical and horizontal line first. These are the first thing you are supposed to do when drafting out a basic suit pattern. So after you've gotten your first two lines here, now the next thing for we to do is to get our box frame. And for we to get that box frame, box frame represents where the front, the side and the back will be. Now on this drafting, this is a single vent suit we are going to draft. Now for we to get that box frame, you will need to add your chest by 8, then you divide it by 2. Now we are having 36 as our chest plus 8. We are having 36 for the chest plus 8, which is 44. We are having 44, then we divide it by 2, which is 22. So now you mark out your 22 from here, from this edge to the other edge. So what you did here, you take it down, then you can now connect your lines together. Like this. So now after you've connected your lines together, now on this drafting there are basic measurements you are supposed to take. Some figures are constant while some varies depending on the size of the person. So now on this place, from here you mark out your full length. Our length here is 29, so here is our 29. Additional 1.5 inch is needed, which that one is constant for every suit you're making. That means you are marking out 30.5, then you leave 2-inch hemming allowance. So that means we are having 30.5 and 32.5. Then you bring it to this other edge, 30.5 and 32.5. Now then you can now connect the lines together like this. Now we have gotten a box. Now on this box, this is where the front, the side and the back will come up. Remember, for we to get this box frame, you add your chest by 8, then you divide it by 2, then you get your box frame from this edge. This is where the measurement will start. So just should be in case you have a client who has an irregular measurement, we get to discuss about that. Now let's deal with this one first. Now we are having shoulder 16. Now this is where the back is. This is the back. Then this is the front. Now we are having shoulder 16. Please, you need to take the video bit by bit so you get to understand what I'm trying to say. Now we are having shoulder 16. From this edge, this is our 16. Remember, it's a cut and fold pattern, so whatever you do, it's by 2. So this is our 16, then our ½ inch seam allowance. So right from this spot, you drop down 2.5 for your slant. This 2.5 is regular, it's constant. Then your back or your shoulder divided by 2 plus ½ inch. Now we have gotten our shoulder point and we have gotten our slant. Now then the back neck will be 3.5. That is the width of the back, should be 3.5. The depth will be 1 inch. Then you connect them together like this. Then you take your ruler from your 3.5 to your 2.5 point. So now this is how the back neck and the slant looks like. Now coming for the front part, whatever you give here that is on your neck point, you add up 1.5 inch to it to get the size of the front neck. So now since we are having 3.5 here, and if we are to add 1.5, it will become 5 inches. So now you come to this edge on this front side, you mark down your 5 inches downward. Mark out your 5. Then you can now roll your line. Like this. Now this is it. Now this is the front neck. So now for we to get the shape of the neck, from this edge you square down or you mark down 2.7. From this other end, you mark out 2 inch. So from here 2.7, from here is 2 inch. So you can now connect the lines together. So now, you know, on every dress, the front is a bit longer than, and the back is a bit longer than the front. So now we are going to shorten the front with ½ inch, like this. Now all the measurements, we are taking it from here because the back is supposed to be a bit longer than the front with ½ inch. So now we are having 2.5 here. Now for we don't need to measure shoulder on the front part. All we need to do, we measure this point, from this point to this other point. We are having 5.7. So since we are having 5.7, now we transfer it back. We transfer it back to this level. These are 5.7. We mark it. Then I told you we are minusing ½ inch from here. So that means we are marking 3 inches here. That means if we are to minus our ½ inch, it will still bounce back to our 2.5. This is our ½ inch that we are minusing from here. So this is the point. Then you connect it to this other point like this. So now this is the slant of the back, this is the slant of the front. Now we are moving down to the chest point. Now how do we get the chest point? Our bicep is 13.5. So now for we to get the chest point, you divide your bicep by 2 plus 2 inches. Now if you are to divide it by 2, this is 13.5, this is 6.7. So now we are having 6.7 as our bicep, then plus 2 inch, that is 8.7. We are having 6.7 as our bicep, then plus 2 inch, that is 8.7. Then you mark down 8.7 from your top line. You mark down 8.7 from your top line. Then you connect the two lines together. Now after you've done this, then you measure from this your 5.7 here, from this your 5.7 here. If you turn the tape downward, you know, like this is 5.7. So from this same point, you pin it down, you turn it straight, it will become 5.2. So since we are having 5.2, you transfer it downward like this, then you rule your line, connecting them together. So now we are trying to get the armhole of the suit. Now from this point, with the look of things, this measurement is a bit smaller measurement, so I'm marking 1.7 for it. For average size, you mark 2 inches, but for this one, since the chest is not that big, I'm marking out 1.7. So we mark 1.7 from here, then 2 inch downward. So from your 1.7, you connect it to your 5.7 points on the shoulder. Then from this place, you on this line, you drop or you mark out your shoulder plus 0.2, that is 8.2. From this point, you mark out your shoulder, which is 8 plus 0.2 inch. So now from this point, you mark ½ inch inward and ½ inch outward, like this. That means we are having a 3-point mark there. So on this point, we take up 1 inch, which is also constant, like this, on the 3 spots. Now these 2 inches we marked will go to this point. This 1.5 will go to your 2. Then from this point, you can now, with a 0.2 inward, like this. Now this is the shape of your armhole on the front part. Then for we to connect this back, this last point is what we are going to use in connecting the back, like this. And remember, all the shapes in human figure are not straight, therefore we can as well take this one in a little with 0.2 as well, just to create a little curve on that part. Now this is how we're able to achieve the armhole on the body. Now let's finish up the neck part. Now remember, on the collar video we did, the collar stand is 1.2 inch, in which we seamed 0.2 from both sides, and we are left with 0.7. Now you mark out your 0.7 from here. This is where we connect it down to the lapel. Now we move down to the waist point. Now you can mark out your waist point from the down part like this. This is our waist point. Now from this waist point you take in 1 inch from the back. Now when you check the human figure on your spinal cord at the back, you will get to discover there is a little hole from the back. So now this 1 inch we are taking in will be cut off just to make sure a shape is given on the back. So now from this your 1 inch, you take it downward like this, then you can now take it up like this, not up to your neck point, but it should go above your chest line. So now this is how the back will look like. Then for we to create the vent on the back, you measure 9 inches like this. Then the size of the vent should be 1.5 inches. So now we connect it together like this. Now this is where the vent will be from. Now we've gotten our neck and our armhole. Now we move down to the waist point. Now for we to get the waist point, we are going to divide our waist, which is 31. This is our waist, 31. We are going to divide it by 6. And now if you are to divide 31 by 6, we are having 5.1. We are having 5.1. So now we mark our 5 points. We approximate it to 5.2. So you mark our 5.2, then we leave our ½ inch seaming allowance. Now this is where the point is. Then we connect it to the middle point of the arm line. Remember, we don't need ruler to roll this place. We only need a curve, a French curve, so it can contour the shape the way it's supposed to. Using a French curve at least will give it a better curve, so it will take off the little excess on it. So now coming for the down part, our shoulder is 16 divided by 2, which is 8. Then you minus 1 inch, which is 7. For we to get this down part, you divide your shoulder by 2 minus 1, which is 7. So from your marked 7 points, you take it up to your waistline and roll it together. Now we are done with the back part. This is the neck, the slant, the armhole, the chest line, the waistline, then down to the hip region. Now that's all we need for the back. Now we come to the front part. Now after we are done getting what we need at the back, we are now to the front. From this our 0.7 inch on the neck region, we rule a line down to our waistline. Now on this point, you will get to know if how many buttons you are making. If it's a single button, then it falls on the waistline. If it's a two button suit, then 2.5 inch up, 2 inch down. So now this your point will stop from the first button. Now we are dealing with just one button, which you can see I've rolled it downward to my waist point. So now, since we have a point here, we now take in 0.7, that is the collar point, 0.7. Then now after you've ruled your line, so now at this point where your neck depth and your lapel, now on this particular place like this is where the lapel is. Now it's for you to alter the lapel if you want it big or small. If you want it small, you can reduce it like this, big or small. If you want it small, you can reduce it like this, then you contour it to your waist region like this. That is if you want it to be small. But if you want it big, you can leave it the way it is, or you even add an extra extension depending on what you want. Now this is what I'm working with. Now at this point I take in 0.7 to bring out my neck shape. Now this is what I want. Now the next thing is for we to demarcate our chest pocket area. Now from this 1.7 we took, you leave extra 1.7, that is the distance of your stitch on the armhole to your pocket is 1.7. So you mark out your 1.7, then the size of your chest pocket, this is a small size suit, so I'm making use of 3.5 for the chest pocket. So in between the 3.5 is 1.7 as well. So this is my 1.7. Then I will rule it down below my waist point. Now on this middle part of the 3.5 is where the shorter dart will be, and your dart is supposed to stop 4 inches away from your pocket. That is the short dart. It's supposed to stop 4 inches away from your pocket. So now we've gotten the neck, the armhole, the size of the pocket, our dart. Now we are done from with this upper region. Now we are back to the waist point. Now for we to get the waist measurement on this part, we got 5.2 on this point. So now you mark out your button allowance 1 inch first. After you've marked out your button allowance 1 inch, your 5.2 that we got from the back, you place it on that 1 inch button allowance. You place it on the 1 inch button allowance, then you complete your measurement. This is our button allowance. This is the 5.2. Now our waist is 31. This is 15, 30. This is 15 and a half. This is 31. So with the help of this 31, we add extra 2 inches. Now this extra 2 inches we are adding is both for the darts and the seaming allowance that will be on the front part. Then we can now join it together to the top side. Now from this point you can now connect it down to the hip region too, like this. Now automatically this place like this is going out. This is where the shape is coming from. Now there is a division here that separates the front, the side, and the back. Now that is what we are going to achieve right away. So now from this point, this is your straight point, you mark in 0.4 inch, not up to half inch, 0.4. You mark it out. That is where the division will come from. That is, this is where we are going to separate the back and the side from the front. Now on this waist point, you mark out 1.2 and 0.7, then 1 inch upward. Now from this our top sides, the tip of the front, you mark where your pocket position will be from. Now this is a smaller size, I'm marking 20 inches for it. For average size, you can make use of 20.5 or 21. Now this is, I'm trying to make the pocket not straight but slant. If I'm using 20, this is how it will be. If I want a straight pocket, this is how it will be like. But since I want it slant, you drop it down with 0.7 inch. This is how it is. Now from this your 0.7 slant of your pocket, you mark 0.9, not up to 1 inch, 0.9. Then from this last line of your drafting, you mark out 1.4. This one too is constant. All the points here I marked is constant. So now you connect this 1.4 to your 0.9 down to this point and your 0.4 inch. Now this is how it is. Like this. So since I've now connected the lines together, you will now, this your 0.9 you marked on your pocket slant will be connected to your 1.2 down to your 0.4. Now this place as well is going out. This is where we make provision for that. This place too is going out, and on this smaller dart, that is the short dart that is right below your pocket, you take in 0.1 from both sides. That means you are taking out 1/4 inch from this same point, just to give it additional shape, like this. Now after we are done with what we are supposed to achieve, then you can now give the down part a curve, in which you're going to mark 3.5 or 4 inch for your curve. Like this. So now, with the help of all these measurements, we've gotten to the conclusion of the front and back border is drafting. So now before you cut, you try to cross check your arm eye measurement. So now the seamings or the sewing we are supposed to stitch on this dress is 0.4 inch. Now first of all, you minus out your 0.4 inches first. You minus your sewing allowance first, then you now measure the rest. From this point, you measure the tips. Now we are having 5 points and 4.9 on this point. Then you transfer your 4.9 down to this level, to this other place. You transfer your 4.9 from here, then you continue, you follow it round. Now we are going to have a cut on this 0.4. on this dart point, there will be a cut here, so that means we are still going to join it back. So now this is 10.1, and if we are to minus 0.4 from 10.1, it would be 9.7. So now we are having 9.7 left. Now from this point, you're still going to mark out another 0.4, since we are holding 0.4 stitch here. Then from this 0.4, you place your 9.7, then you continue till this place. Now we are having 18 as our arm eye. Now we are having 18 here. Now after this level, after you've cross-checked and you know the figure it gave you, then you can now go ahead and cut. So now let me show you how we cut it out. So you ensure you follow up all your drafted points.